Now, why is all that I've explained to you in the previous movies, why is that all relevant? Why do we need to analyze texts and know where their orientation, their topic, and their focus is? And why do we need to look at the patterns? I gave some examples already while explaining the texts, the professionally written text. Here I have some examples that were provided to me by your teachers from students from previous years who got severe feedback on their writing. Let's go through, for instance, the first text. In this research, well, we know now that's an orientation. The IVs, I'm not entirely sure what they are, to be honest, without any further context. I thought first it was like IVs to drip stuff into you, but reading the rest of the context, I'm not sure. I don't even know if I pronounce them as IVs, but for now I do. So, in this research, this orientation, the IVs is topic, are compared in two different countries, namely the Netherlands and Portugal, both located in Europe, both culturally different. I'm assuming that there should be an extra both here, otherwise it makes no sense, the sentence. Okay, this is not the first paragraph of the text. I think this is the second paragraph. At least I hope this is the second paragraph. Because if it were the very first sentence of a thesis, then what is the IVs? I mean, that would come out of the blue, right? So I'm hoping that this is like the second or the third or whatever, but some other paragraph. Anyway, suppose this is the third paragraph or the fourth paragraph, and in the previous paragraphs, IVs had been introduced and why they need to be researched had been introduced, then this is all fine. So, this is an okay first sentence. Then the next sentence is we, or the next topic in the next sentence is we. We use the European Value Study, which includes information on both happiness and health. Okay, how do we use them? I mean, you're compared to different countries. Apparently, you chose them because they're culturally different, and then you suddenly move on to the method. I would like to know, I would need a bridge between the two. I mean, this focus sort of comes out of nowhere, and it doesn't really say anything about the we. If you had make some sort of connection here, it would have been like, I compared in two different countries. The comparison is going to take place on a different set of scales, namely happiness and health, or whatever and whatever. And as a framework, we use the European Value Study. Then the European Value Study is actually properly introduced. But now, by putting it all the way in the beginning of the focus, it seems like we should know about this thing already. And even though it may have been talked about in the previous paragraph, we need a new small type of introduction here. And then suddenly we talk about the research of Sabatini included individuals from Trento, Italy. Okay, I'm going to assume that the sentence stopped here and that here we have a new sentence. That is why, let us assume that this is the orientation. This research is the topic, will give insights about the IV for other countries which might give other results with the same IVs. I have a hard time understanding what this focus means, but let's first direct our attention to the structure. So we have an okay orientation. Then we have the topic that we apparently have been talking about. Let's assume that this is not the first paragraph. Then we have a focus that is still kind of acceptable. Then we suddenly move to the method without the method having been introduced. Then out of the blue, we get a topic that we had not been talking about. And then we suddenly get another focus. The research of Sabatini included individuals from Trento, Italy. That's why this research will give insights about the IV for other countries, which might give other results with the same IVs. Huh? We were just talking about the Netherlands and Portugal. And they were already culturally different. And now we suddenly also need Italy in there. Why? And then also we have here again, that's why uh, this research, here we are, runs two different models to predict the effect of happiness on self-assessed health in the two different countries. This part is so dense or complicated or high information value per word that I don't even know how to rewrite this. Also because I'm not very familiar with the topic. What I can tell you is that you need some connection somewhere because the focus is coming out of nowhere and the topics are coming out of nowhere. So your pattern doesn't match. If I try to insert the patterns again, like I did in the previous sentence, we have an orientation which we agreed we would not number. Then we have a topic, IVs. Okay, we are talking about IVs, fine. Then we have a focus compared in two different countries, both culturally different. That's the end of the sentence. So apparently the cultural difference is very important. Then we have a different topic, we, and then we suddenly have an entirely different focus. We use this value study. And then suddenly out of nowhere, so we get focus. Oh, wait. I'm messing up the numbers. This should be topic. Oh, here we go. This should be topic 3. Then this is focus 4. And then suddenly this one, this Sabatini guy, is topic 5. The topic comes out of nowhere. And then suddenly we're also talking about Italy. So we have an entirely new thing going on there. So this is F6 and this research we've been talking about. So we can relate this topic to the orientation that we had before. We will give insights about the IV for other countries which might give other results with the same IVs. I am guessing this has to do with the cultural difference there. And then suddenly there are two models to predict the effect of happiness and self-assessed health in two different countries. I don't know where the two different models come from. This text cannot be followed. If you now look at the patterns that go with it, there are unacceptable patterns. For instance, pattern 2 is unacceptable. You have a topic. Oh no, sorry, we're talking here about pattern 3. Topic 1, focus 2, then out of nowhere you get another topic with another focus, and then out of nowhere you talk back about the previous focus, but you have an entirely different focus here. It is not working very well. So an unacceptable pattern is, for instance, I mean, there are more unacceptable patterns, right? But this is, for instance, an unacceptable pattern. You could also say that it's an example of pattern 2, where you have a topic and a focus, an entirely new topic, and then you talk about, oh no, sorry, pattern 1, excuse me. You have a topic and then you have a focus. You have an entirely new topic and an entirely new focus. That means it feels there is no connection between the sentences. Your topic does not have a source in either your previous focus or in previous orientations or in the generic world around you, like we, the authors, or we, the people. And so you get a set of loosely connected sentences that all seem to be about IVs, but that don't follow a pattern. Here you also have an interesting one. This is obviously a paragraph that is not from the beginning of a text. Here you have a less obvious but still relevant variable. Here is the topic, is the period in which an individual is born. Focus. Perfectly fine sentence. I don't know exactly what we are researching here, but I can imagine that the variable might be less obvious but is still relevant. And I'm curious, this is a good topic. A less obvious but still relevant variable, what could it be, is the period in which an individual is born. Okay, yeah, I get that. Not quite sure yet what you mean by period. Like, do you mean spring or do you mean the 1920s or whatever? Like, for instance, my father, he was born during the war, so that was very relevant for his health because, he was partly of Jewish descent, so he had to be in hiding, which means he didn't get enough sunshine, which means he had a serious problem with his bones. Rachitis was the result of it. So, yeah, I get that. I'm intrigued now. I'd like to read on. So, the period in which an individual is born. Okay, Now I'm starting to lose interest already because this is a literal repetition of what it says here. Like the entire focus is moved to the topic of the next sentence, and that feels like I'm reading a children's book. Here is Sam. Hi, Sam. How are you, Sam? Sam walks to school. That's very much children's language. But anyway, so a less obvious but still relevant variable is the period in which an individual is born. The period in which an individual is born might affect the health of that individual by certain trends that were popular in that specific period. Okay, it's awkwardly written, but I get it. Yeah, some things might be going on that might affect the health of a person. There. Very generic. As soon as you start using generic words towards the end of a paragraph, you generally know that you're not entirely sure what you want to say. So there is no research done to investigate this effect. Okay, but orientation. Being born in a certain time, topic, might affect the health of that person in later stages of life. Okay, now you lost me. Because here you have an interesting topic, a variable, and then in the focus you say what's really important about that variable, namely what it actually is, the period in which an individual is born. Then in the next sentence, you're okay, it's a bit awkward, but you pick up the topic in the next sentence from the focus in the previous sentence, and that works. And then you also still say what's important about that. Might affect the health of that individual by certain trends that were popular in that specific period. Okay, it's still a little bit awkwardly written, but it is a new focus, so it works. And then you sort of tell yourself right away, there's no research done to investigate this effect. Okay. So basically, what are we talking about then? But I'm still saying, despite the fact that there's no research, being born in a certain time, so you have the same topic here, might affect the health of that person in later stages of their life. Now that's a focus that you had here already. And now you have to focus here again. Having a double focus, like the same focus twice in the same paragraph, means you did not say anything. This is just a bad text. Not sure how to improve it, but you could start with the first sentence. That was okay. A less obvious but still relevant variable is the period in which an individual is born. This period, that will be already making it, that will make it already more specific that you actually got this topic from this previous focus. So this period might, oh sorry, this should not be green anymore, might have characteristics that affect the people born during that time. Something like that. However, I'll change the colors later. However interesting that notion is, there has been no conclusive research into this hypothesis. Not again, however, that would be bad. This thesis, therefore, I'm not sure if that was the topic of this thesis, but I'm trying to save this paragraph, will investigate the notion that there might be a causal relationship between between the period of birth and later health issues. Not my greatest work, but I hope you're getting the point. However interesting that notion is, or might be, would be better, might be, they're not very good because generic, has been no conclusive research into this hypothesis. This thesis, or this research, or whatever, therefore, mind you, even though therefore would normally be an orientation, it's not at the beginning of the sentence, so it's really just part of the focus. This thesis, therefore, will investigate the notion that there might be a causal relationship between the period of birth and later health issues. Not my best work, but already a lot better than the paragraph that we have here. Okay, if you look again at patterns that don't really work, then this is one where this, in the original one, is one where you have a topic, you have a focus, then you have a topic that nicely comes from the previous one, then you have a focus, and then later on you have the same focus. So if you look at patterns that don't work, then where is it? This is it. You have the, number 5. You have a topic, you have a focus, later you have another topic, but you have the same focus. If you have the same focus twice in the same paragraph, people feel that their text is not moving forward. And it actually feels like you're rambling. Let us look at one more example. Excuse me. On June 2012, orientation, a reform of the cost-sharing system topic took place in 2 Spanish regions, Catalonia and Madrid, with the temporary introduction of a €1 co-payment per prescription with an annual maximum. Okay, here things go awry already, because this is a very complicated focus. It's a bit long, although about 2 lines is acceptable. But the thing is, it has 2 different focal points. So I would rewrite this by saying, on June 2012, a reform of the cost-sharing system was introduced, tried to be active, in 2 Spanish regions. Or even better, would be the government, or whomever did it, I'm not familiar with who would be the active agent here, introduced a reform of the cost-sharing system in 2 Spanish regions. Or even better, because now in 2 Spanish regions is the last part of my focus, and that means that people might think that I will now be talking about Catalonia and Madrid, but I am basically not, right? I'm talking about the reform of the cost-sharing system. So on June 2012, the government introduced in 2 Spanish regions, I'm sorry, I missed the N, Catalonia and Madrid, the government had introduced a reform of the cost-sharing. Oh, system is now here. Oh, wait, ignore my clumsiness there. Had introduced a reform of the cost-sharing system. Full stop. Now we know that next sentence is probably going to be about this system. This system entailed that This temporary system entailed that for each prescription, a €1 co-payment was required with an annual maximum. I made it 2 sentences, and it's not a lot longer than the 1 sentence that we had before. I mean, I have like 2 centimeters more of text in comparison, but now we have a clear situation. We have a topic, an orientation. This is also still part of the orientation. Then we have a topic, and then we have a focus that ends with the cost sharing system. And then the next sentence starts with a topic that actually comes from this focus and then says something about that topic, namely what it looked like. Now we have a far more structured text that is easier to read and therefore easier to make your point with. Here you had 2 focal points in one focus. Here I have actually split them up in 2 separate focals, in 2 separate sentences, and therefore 2 separate focus parts of that sentence. If you look at unacceptable patterns again, this would be an example of pattern 6. You have a topic and you put 2 focal points in there, and then the reader literally loses focus, like I have demonstrated already with one of the example texts that I got from the journal. Now, let me look at one more, which is a bit scary because this one, I had not prepared this one. So I'm going to see if I can do something with this improvising. Okay, so our aim in this paper, topic, is to understand the impact of the pharmaceutical co-insurance reform on drugs consumption. There. Focus. Evidence, there, suggests that free medicines, well, medicine is not a plural. Well, okay, maybe in this particular context, I'm not sure. So free medicines generally increase the consumption of prescription medicines and total pharmaceutical expenditure, I can pronounce this. In order to do that, I feel what's going on already. We focus on one region, Catalonia, Spain, which changed the pharmaceutical cost-sharing system by the central and regional government in 2012. Well, apart from some... I'm making a mess here. Sorry, this should be blue, of course, because this is the orientation and this is the topic. So in order to do that, we focus on one region, Catalonia in Spain, which changed the pharmaceutical cost-sharing system by the central and regional government in 2012. So there are some grammatical errors here. Like we focus on one region, Catalonia, Spain, that should be there, which changed the pharmaceutical cost-sharing system. I'm not sure where, I think this is what the person meant, where the pharmaceutical cost-sharing system was changed by the central and regional government in 2012. Okay, but what's going on in this sentence is here. We have here what's going on in this paragraph, we have here an orientation in order to do that. And the reader needs to know what is that. And generally speaking, we want that to come from the previous sentence. But it doesn't come from the previous sentence. It comes from the sentence before that. So what happens is when you're reading this text, our aim in this paper is to understand the impact of the pharmaceutical co-insurance reform on drug consumption. Fine. Good sentence. Then the next sentence. Evidence suggests that free medicines generally increase the consumption of prescription medicines and total pharmaceutical expenditure. Fine. In order to do that, what? Increase the consumption of prescription medicines? Because that's what it means now. In order to increase the consumption of prescription medicines, we focus on one region. You don't want to increase the consumption of prescription medicines. You want to understand the impact of the pharmaceutical co-insurance reform. So something with this sentence should be changed. I'm leaving it to you guys to think what that might be, but I'm hoping you understand how the structure of these texts is important. Basically, I hope I made my point now. In the next movie, I will explain some more patterns, and I will also explain the last couple of examples that I have here. But for now, this movie has been 25 minutes, so that's long enough.